Hi everybody, my name is Mr. Nate. So welcome to another series of our lesson in word processing. In this particular class, we will learn to create a standard timetable using Microsoft Word. Don't forget that in our last class, we talked about what word processing is all about, and we talked about the different examples of word processor. And we also talked about the similarities and difference between all of these, applications. And in that class, I told you that in this class, which is the next class, we will learn how to create, a few things. And this particular class is going to be hands-on, which means that it's going to be a practical class. So I would want you all to get your computer system. If you're watching this video from a phone or from your laptop, at some point you would have to pause the video and then do what I am doing. Or basically, you can minimize this video, drag it to a particular side of the screen, and then you watch the video and do what you see me do. So that's what we call hands-on. So it's a practical session. At the end of this class, I would want you all to send whatever you have done to a particular email that I'm going to provide at the end of this lesson. Now, what are we going to benefit at the end of today's lesson? At the end of today's lesson, you will be able to create any kind of timetable using Microsoft Word, Google Docs, or WPS. Don't forget, I told you in the last class that Microsoft Word, WPS, Google Docs, the three of them are similar. So if you have learned to do anything in Microsoft Word, you can easily replicate it in any of the word processors. So let's move on to the class. Now, what is the first thing we want to do? We want to launch the Microsoft Word software. Now, to launch the Microsoft software, what are we going to do? The first thing is you press the Windows button on your computer. So your computer system has a Windows button. Now, on your keyboard, you find the Windows button. Now, this button looks like this icon that you can see here. It's called Windows button or Start button. So this is the button here. On your keyboard, you would also find it there. So once you select the Start button, you can easily type the word W-O-R-D, Word. Don't forget, we want to learn to use Microsoft Word to create a standard timetable. So you can either create a class timetable, you can create a food menu timetable, you can create a roster timetable, you can create any kind of timetable, basically. Now, once you type Word, it's going to show you this page. Now, I can always minimize, I can maximize, and then I can cancel, but I don't need to do that. Oh, I just mistakenly canceled it. So don't forget, you press the Start button on your keyboard, or on your computer system, you locate and left click the Start button. Then you type W-O-R-D and then you select Word. It's going to show you this page. You can work with templates actually, but I prefer to work with a blank document. Prefer to work with a blank document, and then I can maximize this page. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain a few things to us before we go on in this class. Now, these are the menus of the Microsoft Word application. We have the File menu. If you click the File menu, you will see other options. You will see the Home, you will see New, you will see Open, you will see Get Ads, Info, Save, Save As, Save to TeraBox, Print, Save, Export, Close. We have different options there. As we advance in this class, we are going to learn how to use each and every of these particular options or menu. Then we have the Home menu. This is the Home menu where you have the bold, you have the italics, you have the underline, you can change your font type, you can change your font size, you can change to right alignment, you can change center alignment, you can change to left alignment. And we have different options here. And then when you click Insert, it will change the menu here. you can see that this menu, this ribbon has changed. Now we have table, we have pictures, we have shapes, we have smart art, we have charts, we have screenshots, we have different options here. When you go to click design, it will give you other things. You see we have different menu here. You click layout, it will give you other options. You click reference, it will give you other options. You click mailings, it will give you other options. We have several menu options here, but like I said, as we advance in this class, we are going to learn some of these menus. Now, I might not be able to teach you all of the menus of the Microsoft Word application, but I'll teach you the major ones that you will use. However, while practicing, you will discover some other features of Microsoft Word by yourself. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is layout. So layout helps you to select the type of document you want to use. Now, there are different paper sizes. We have the A4 size, we have the A5 size, we have the A3, we have the A2, we have A1. So let me explain how it works. Now, the A4 paper is the regular paper that we use for typing. So for instance, your school is sending a letter to your parents. They usually type and print on A4 paper. Or probably your school is sending a bill or a report to your parents. They usually use the A4 paper. When you fold the A4 paper into two, which is the half of A4, it becomes A5. Now, if you have two of A4, what that will be called is A3. If you have two of A3, that will be called A2, and all. I believe you understand that. But for standard documentation, we use A4. So in this class, we're going to be learning to use A4 paper. Now, how do you know which paper you are using? So you can come to paper size here. Once you click the tiny arrow here, it will show you different types of paper. So we have letter. This letter is very similar to A4. You can see the measurement. Letter is 8.5 by 11 inches. Look at A4 here. A4 is 8.27 by 11.69 inches. And then you can see the legal here. Legal is 8.5 by 14 inches. So we are, like I said, we're going to be using the standard. We're going to be using the standard paper size, which is A4. Now, another thing is margin. Margin refers to the spaces you have at the top, at the bottom, and at both sides of your document. So, for instance, look at my document here. This space, this is the margin I have at the left side of this document. So it means that if I'm typing, my information would only start from this margin and then it will end here. Do you understand? Now this is the top margin. It means I can't type at this top here. Now let me copy and paste this document. Let's see what the bottom margin looks like. So you can see that this is my bottom margin. These are the margins between the two sides. This is what we have at the bottom and at the top. Do you understand? So that is what the margin means. So I can choose another kind of margin if I don't like this. So personally, I don't like to use this normal margin. This is the normal margin. I don't like to use it. There is last custom. Now, I always prefer to use narrow margins. You can see narrow margins. It has reduced the spaces between the sides at the top and bottom of my document. It gives me more space to type. So for this particular lesson, I like to use narrow margin, and for most of my documentation, I like to use narrow margin. Another thing I want to talk about is the paper orientation. Now, for your document, you can choose to use portrait or landscape. Let me show you what portrait and landscape mean. So I can easily zoom my document. I can zoom in and I can zoom out. So when I'm zooming out, it will reduce the paper size so that you can see the whole paper properly. The only disadvantage is that your text will be too tiny. You won't see your text properly. But I can zoom in a bit so I can see better. Okay, so this is landscape. So when your paper is actually like this, it is called landscape. But when your paper is like this in tower form, it is called portrait. So let me show you what portrait looks like. So if I go back to the orientation and I click portrait, look at what portrait paper size looks like. So this is portrait, and this is landscape. So one is vertical and the other is horizontal. I'm sure you understand. So for this particular document, I want to use landscape because I am actually working on a timetable. So first thing I want to do is, so at least we've learned about the margins, we've learned about orientation, we've learned about paper size. We will come to the remaining features, the column, the breaks, the line numbers, the hyphenation, and all. We'll come back to all of that. Some we might not even discuss that. So now let's go back to the home menu. So the next thing I want to do is I want to type the title. So what I want to do is, let me call it grade 3 and 4 class time table. Okay, so because this is my title, I want to write them in capital letters. So I'll clean this again. I'll turn on my caps lock. I'll say grade 3 and 4 class time table. Then the next thing is I'm going to highlight this. I'm sure we all learned how to highlight already because we learned that in grade 3, grade 2. But if you don't know, let me just explain. So you want to highlight, you can simply hold down your shift key and then use your arrow key to move your cursor to the end of the document while holding down the shift key. I'm going to do that again. I've taken my cursor to the beginning of my write-up. I'll hold down my shift key. I'm holding down my shift key right now. Then I'll use the arrow key, the forward arrow key, to highlight forward. Okay, that's simply how to highlight. There are other ways, but this is the easiest that I can explain to you right now. Now I can bold this. I can underline this. So I'm going to do that at the end of this particular, at the end of the whole thing. So what I always advise, children or whoever is learning to type or beginners is, you want to start typing, it's better to finish typing all your documents before formatting or editing. So I'll just move to the next thing. I'll move to the next line using my enter key. Now the next thing I want to do is to insert my table. So I'll go to insert menu and then I would say insert table. Now I would insert it so I can choose the number of rows and column I want. So I can insert automatically here, but I can insert manually. So I can just click insert table. Now it's going to ask me to specify the numbers of rows and column, the number of rows and column. Now I'm going to teach you what this means. So for instance, we're creating a timetable, a class timetable. We usually we come to school Monday to Friday. So it means that our column will be, so it means that our rows, we can have probably 7 rows or 6 rows. I'm going to use 7 rows. And then the column, let's assume we have, let's say, 12 subjects in a particular day. So I'm going to use maybe 12 columns. So for this particular class, I'll say insert a table of 12 columns and 7 rows. And then I'll click enter. And this is my table. So from here, I can now start editing, adjusting, putting different information and all that. So this is basically how to insert a table in Microsoft Word. You can practice this. If you don't understand what I am saying, you can pause the video and start again. I hope you have learned something tangible in this class, and we can take it up from here in our next class. So I hope to see you in our next class, and I believe you enjoyed this lesson. See you in our next class, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you have learned something tangible in this class.